Okay, let's dive in. We're looking today at one of those high-profile relationships that, well, it seemed to blow up pretty spectacularly right out in the open.
Yeah, we're talking about Donald Trump and Elon Musk, a dynamic that certainly got a lot of attention.
A lot. And for this deep dive, we're leaning on really just one source, but it's a very specific one, an interview Michael Cohen gave on MSNBC.
Right. And Cohen, of course, positions himself as having a unique perspective here. Former personal attorney, fixer, confidant for Trump for, what, over a decade?
Exactly. Someone who was deep inside that world by his own account before things went very, very sour for him.
And because of that history, he argues he's maybe uniquely positioned, sadly perhaps, to understand how these relationships around Trump work, how they start, what keeps them going, and how they often seem to end.
So our mission today, using only Cohen's perspective from this specific interview, is to unpack his take on this alleged Trump-Musk bromance, I guess you could call it.
hmm What did Cohen think was really going on? Why does he say it fell apart? And, maybe most interestingly, what does he predict is coming next?
And how his own experiences kind of color all of that. So yeah, get ready. It's quite a story, based on Cohen's telling, with some very vivid details.
Definitely. And Cohen's claim to knowing what's what, it really rests on that decade plus of proximity, doesn't it?
Mm.
He stresses it wasn't just like a regular job.
No, he talks about being the guy, the one getting calls at, 4 in the morning, late at night, constantly, for years.
That kind of access, being in the room, he argues, showed him how Trump operates with people he's relying on at that moment.
A side maybe few others saw for that long. So he feels that gives him, a special insight into these dynamics.
And based on that, Cohen says he wasn't surprised about Trump and Musk. He actually predicted that bromance wouldn't last. Saw the cracks early on, he claims.
He has this description of Trump's style when he's trying to, really connect with someone he needs. It's pretty theatrical.
Oh, yeah?
He calls it the lean, the whisper, and then this gaze, where Trump looks into your eyes, but Cohen says, what he's looking at is his own reflection in your pupils.
Wow. Okay, that's quite an image. Sort of intense and maybe a bit self-absorbed.
That's the picture Cohen paints, yeah. And his takeaway from that is pretty blunt. Trump didn't actually care about Musk. He used him. That's Cohen's word.
Used him. Okay. For what, specifically, according to Cohen?
Well, initially, Cohen claims part of it was money. Simple as that. Getting Musk involved meant Trump, quote, didn't have to lay out any of his own.
So transactional right off the bat, in Cohen's view.
Mm-hmm. But he says the really big thing, the single most important thing, was access to X, Twitter.
Ah, the platform. Getting that direct line back.
Yeah, that was apparently paramount for Trump.
And there's this other angle Cohen touches on, about Musk's side of things. He mentions this idea, this possibility, that Musk maybe thought he'd kind of bought the presidency.
Right, and was therefore expecting a return on that investment, which, sounds pretty weird when you're talking about democratic elections.
To say the least. But Cohen actually pushes back on the idea that Musk didn't get a return. He acknowledges the X investment, sure.
Yeah, Cohen mentions Musk putting in, I think he said $280 million and somehow pulling out $210 million. He kind of weirdly calls that part a pretty good investment.
Yeah, that bit's a little unclear.
Yeah.
But Cohen's main point isn't about the X deal itself.
No, the real return, the massive one Cohen points to, is Musk's own net worth. He says Musk's wealth exploded by over $200 billion since Trump became president.
$200 billion, okay.
So Cohen frames that astronomical figure as the actual return Musk got during that time. It kind of flips that whole expecting a return idea on its head.
Interesting. So if both sides were supposedly getting something, what went wrong? Why the public feud? Cohen says Musk made a fatal mistake.
Which was?
Letting it spill out into the open, escalating the fight publicly.
And why was that the mistake? In Cohen's view, I mean, Musk is, arguably the richest guy on the planet.
Doesn't matter, according to Cohen, because in his assessment, Donald Trump is still the most powerful man in the world. Richest doesn't beat most powerful in this equation.
And this is where Cohen really leans on his personal story, isn't it?
Absolutely. He says he knows firsthand he was that guy Trump did the lean and the whisper with. He knows what that proximity feels like and what happens after.
And he sees other people lining up now for that same spot. He names Marco Rubio, Howard Lutnick, Steve Witkoff.
Even Speaker Mike Johnson gets a mention. Maygay Mike Johnson, as Cohen calls him. He sees them all wanting to be that guy.
Just like he says Jared Kushner was for a while after Cohen himself was out.
Right. But the core warning from Cohen, based on everything he says he saw and experienced, is stark.
Hmm.
Getting that close, being that guy. Quote, it never ends well for anybody.
He points to Rudy Giuliani as another example. Once inseparable, now. Well, look at Rudy's situation.
Exactly. And so the prediction for Musk follows that same logic. It's almost presented as inevitable.
Yeah, Cohen just lays it out. It's not going to end well for Elon Musk either. The pattern he believes is set.
And this leads to the next stage Cohen describes, which sounds, frankly, pretty alarming. This is where he brings in another character with a very specific look.
Oh, yeah. The Dark Overlord, he calls him. Steve Bannon comes in with his 12 shirts, 5 jackets.
Yeah, it sets a specific, almost comical detail. You can kind of picture it.
Totally. And Cohen claims Bannon and others are already starting to do what he predicted Trump would. Essentially, pull a Mohammed bin Salman on all of these mega billionaires that cross him.
Which, for anyone unfamiliar, that reference usually implies using the full force of the state against wealthy individuals seen as threats, like what's been alleged happened with rivals in Saudi Arabia.
Right. The core threat isn't just insults anymore. Cohen's talking about weaponizing government power.
Yeah, the sentiment Cohen describes is basically, Elon, you might be rich, but you're never more powerful than the president. You're never richer than the country.
And he lists some really specific, kind of shocking potential actions he claims are being talked about in Trump's circle.
Like what?
Like nationalize SpaceX.
Wow.
Yeah. And Cohen even adds his own little aside there, like, don't we have NASA? Kind of highlighting the absurdity or maybe the punitive nature of it.
Right. A bit of dark humor, perhaps. What else?
Revoke his immigration status. You know, reminding everyone Musk is originally South African.
Okay, that's serious.
And do the same thing to X, Musk's platform, that they're trying to do to TikTok, nationalize that as well.
So Cohen's painting a picture of, what do you call it? Political guerrilla warfare.
Yeah, conducted against Musk. Unlike anything seen ever in this country, Cohen claims, because, in his view, they can. He suggests Musk might not really grasp the kind of fight he's potentially in for.
Now, Cohen does acknowledge, to be fair, that Musk isn't exactly playing nice either. He says Musk kind of engages in that sort of thing himself.
And the prime example he uses is that deleted tweet from Musk, right?
Yeah.
The one bringing up Trump and the whole Epstein situation.
Yeah, the Epstein files mentioned. Cohen reacts pretty strongly to Musk doing that.
Yeah, he calls it so below the belt.
And this actually gives Cohen a moment in the interview to address those Trump-Epstein allegations himself, drawing on his claim of knowing everything from being by his side for almost a decade and a half.
And what's his take?
A very firm denial, based on his time there. He says he has, quote, zero knowledge of any relationship between Trump and Jeffrey Epstein during the years he was close to Trump. He calls the whole idea nonsense, basically.
He even tells this little story to back it up about some court case, Jane Doe versus Donald Trump. He says he sent an investigator to check out an address listed in the Bronx related to the case, and they found a vacant lot, not even a building. It's a very specific anecdote meant to debunk at least one claim.
So Cohen's point seems to be, look, there are plenty of other things to criticize Trump about. Policies like what he calls the big, beautiful bill, which I call the big, beautiful disaster.
Right.
But based on his own firsthand knowledge, Cohen believes the Epstein stuff regarding Trump is just not accurate and shouldn't be the focus.
Okay, so bringing it back to the Trump-Musk fallout and Cohen's playbook idea, how does he see this typically unfolding?
He uses 3 Ds. Distance, denigrate, disparage.
Yeah.
That's the pattern when someone falls out of favor.
And he thinks that's happening with Musk now.
Yeah, he points to alleged comments from Trump, things like calling Musk a drug addict, saying he has mental problems. That's the denigration part, Cohen says.
So when Trump publicly says things like, oh, I cut him loose, I wish him well, Cohen doesn't buy it.
Not for a second, according to this interview. He says that's just cover.
Oh.
The real action, the playbook he predicts, is much more serious and hidden. He claims that while Musk might think Trump's just moving on, what Trump is actually doing is weaponizing the Department of Justice through his attorney general and other people.
Weaponizing the DOJ.
And the end game of that alleged strategy. Cohen predicts they're going to drop the hammer on him out of nowhere when he least expects it.
Wow. So back to that political guerrilla warfare at the highest level, it's a picture of power used personally, punitively.
That's the scenario Cohen lays out, absolutely. Based entirely on his claimed inside knowledge and experiences.
So, okay, you've heard Cohen's side of this, drawing heavily on his past with Trump. Why should you, listening right now, care about this particular account, these claims, these predictions?
Well, I think based on this source, It potentially offers a glimpse, albeit a very specific and filtered one through Cohen's lens, into how power might work at those really high levels. Allegedly driven by, utility self-interest.
Yeah, and it gives a very stark picture, Cohen's picture anyway, of what happens when those kinds of alliances reportedly break down, from someone claiming they saw it happen repeatedly.
And understanding the patterns Cohen describes, the alleged strategies, especially these really serious claims about using government power as a weapon, that seems pretty crucial for just navigating the news, right? For understanding potential tactics used by powerful people.
It's about being aware of the alleged playbook, I guess. The methods Cohen claims might be used when you have that kind of power concentrated.
Taking a step back, Cohen's narrative here suggests a world where, alliances are maybe pretty thin, loyalty's conditional, and disagreements aren't just personal spats. They can escalate, he claims, into something involving the full machinery of the state.
It definitely leaves you thinking, doesn't it? Cohen's whole perspective, shaped by his own pretty intense history, basically says, get too close to this specific type of power, no matter how rich or famous you are yourself, and the ending is predictable.
It never ends well for anybody. That's his recurring line. So the final thought maybe is, what does this alleged pattern, if Cohen's right about it, suggest about the real price of playing in that particular arena? And what does it say about how these high-stakes conflicts might shape things for everyone else?
Yeah, definitely a lot to chew on from this pretty intense deep dive into Michael Cohen's perspective on the Trump-Musk saga.